Can we talk about the anatomy of Donald Trump's meltdown for a minute right here? It usually starts with a poll like this one that came out on Friday. The Clarity poll has Vice President Kamala Harris up 7. This is a good poll. It's a B-rated poll, 1,000 likely voters, has her surging ahead. Then you go into CNN's poll in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, which has one electoral vote. And Vice President Kamala Harris there is leading significantly by 11. President Biden won by 6, and many view Nebraska's 2nd congressional district as a bellwether for kind of the rest of the country in swing states. So the fact that Vice President Kamala Harris is polling so well there, up 11 in Nebraska's 2nd, also gives you some data about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, about Wisconsin, and other states. Also, you get some more data. This is all going to make Donald Trump melt down. Like here, President Biden's approval rating is now in positive territory for basically the first time in a while in many polls, including this one by Redfield and Wilton right now. So then we get to the meltdown, where Donald Trump starts off by sending unhinged emails. Here, he had Alina Habba, his lawyer / spokesperson, send an email like this. I kid you not, here is what it says. Pretty please with a cherry on top. Could you give us money? Read it. Pretty please with a cherry on top. And it is a weird photo of Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, with her head tilted, begging for money, saying pretty please with a cherry on top. Then you get emails, Ben, do you want my autograph? I actually don't, but here's what it says. It goes, hundreds of thousands of patriotic Americans have joined the MAGA movement in the wake of the cowardly attempt on my life. After this huge wave of new Trump patriots, I'm offering something special to thank you. And it's a autographed photo of himself. Now, basically all of Donald Trump's campaign emails at this point are him referencing assassination attempts. He doesn't talk about policy, just this over and over again. Then his next email is, oops, did your invitation get lost in the mail? And then it says, you know what would make Kamala's blood boil? And of course you have to give him money because that would make her blood boil right there, apparently. So he sends messages like that. Oh, then he makes this post right here where he says that Google is intentionally making these searches bad for him and putting bad news about him, that Google's interfering with the election. That's where he's going now. And then he gave this bizarre town hall in Warren, Michigan, where he's asked a very basic question. We've seen this time and time again. We've covered this very frequently here on the MeidasTouch Network, right? He'll be asked a question. So, what is your plan for childcare? So, what is your plan for manufacturing? So, these are softball, open-ended questions, and he can't even string a sentence together. So literally the question is, what actions will you take to ensure jobs stay in America? Then Donald Trump says that he won the Man of the Year award in Michigan 20 years ago, but that the fake news saying it's not a real award. It isn't a real award, number one. You didn't win Michigan's Man of the Year. He references this over and over again. You sound utterly cognitive impaired and delusional, and you haven't answered the question. Like, could you imagine if Vice President Kamala Harris answered a question like this? Here, play the clip.
What actions will you take to ensure that our jobs stay in America so we can continue to build the best cars in the world here in Michigan?
So pretty much as we've been saying, and what I want to do is I want to be able to, look, your business, years ago in this area, I was honored as the Man of the Year. It was maybe 20 years ago. Oh, and the fake news heard about it. They said, it never happened, it never happened. And I didn't know who it was. It was a group that honored me as Man of the Year. The fakers back there, see the fake news? But they said, oh, and they looked, and it, they said it never happened, but I said, I swear to you, it happened. It did happen. I was Man of the Year. And I came and I made a speech, and I said, why do you allow them to take your car business away? Why do you allow it to happen? They're taking your business away. And I didn't know too much about it. All I know is they were taking your car industry away from you. They said it never happened. And lo and behold, somebody said, I remember the event, and then we found out, and we had everything. We got the awards, we had everything. It did happen, but I gave a speech which at the time was pretty controversial.
And by the way, if you want to look at the community note of all of the fact checks on him there's no evidence that Trump won a Man of the Year in Michigan around 20 years ago. The award he claims he won does not even exist. So that's what Donald Trump is talking about. On the other hand, Vice President Kamala Harris gave a speech in Douglas, Arizona about the border. And she laid out a very detailed plan, but specifically, she said, look, I would sign into law the bipartisan border plan immediately that Donald Trump killed. Here's what Vice President Kamala Harris had to say. Play the clip.
And as president, I won't only bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump tanked. I will do more to secure our border. To reduce illegal border crossings, I will take further action to keep the border closed between ports of entry. Those who cross our borders unlawfully will be apprehended and removed and barred from re-entering for 5 years. We will pursue more severe criminal charges against repeat violators. And if someone does not make an asylum request at a legal point of entry and instead crosses our border unlawfully, they will be barred from receiving asylum. While we understand that many people are desperate to migrate to the United States, our system must be orderly and secure. And that is my goal. And that is my goal.
As yet another hurricane bears down on Florida, I wanted to take a moment in this video to once again address the urgent need to confront the climate crisis head on. I just read this incredible piece by Hollywood legend Robert Redford in USA Today, where he praised Kamala Harris for understanding that climate change is not just an environmental issue, like we see with the increased frequency and severity of these storms, but how it's also a threat to our fundamental freedoms. The article, for those who want to read it, is called Robert Redford, Climate Change Threatens Our Way of Life. Harris Knows This. Redford writes, quote, Harris has named that threat. She's driven historic climate action. She's ready to press those gains forward from day one as president. He continues, quote, Harris broke important new ground in her convention speech, calling out the need to protect yet another essential freedom, our right to live free from the pollution that fuels the climate crisis. Redford brings up Vice President Harris's leading efforts to pass the strongest climate measures in history, to holding big oil accountable for its lies, and how she has constantly fought for a livable future. Redford goes on to say that her opponent, Donald Trump, calls people who grasp the climate threat, quote, fools. As part of his failed presidency, he pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement and rolled back emission curbs, teeing up the worst White House attack ever on the environment and public health. Trump has said that he'll do even worse in a second term, surrendering the climate agenda to wealthy oil and gas donors and other big polluters, guided by the MAGA manifesto, Project 2025. As Redford highlights, last year alone, these kinds of climate-related disasters killed nearly 500 Americans, leaving $95 billion in damages that threaten to overwhelm our capacity as a nation to cope. If that kind of ongoing and increasing devastation isn't a threat to the freedoms that underpin our way of life, I'd like to know what is. Let's just make sure here at the MeidasTouch Network that we're always keeping climate top of mind. You could go ahead and share that article and spread the word. And now we can get back to our report.
Also, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign put out the following new ad. Said the following: Trump is going to Warren, Michigan today to lie to workers. In 2016, he told Warren that they won't lose one plant if he's president. In 2019, GM closed their Warren plant. Here's the ad that Vice President Kamala Harris put out. Play the clip.
If I'm elected, you won't lose one plant. You'll have plants coming into this country. You're going to have jobs again.
The news today couldn't have come at a worse time. Just weeks now until Christmas, and General Motors has now revealed it will lay off workers in Ohio, Michigan, and Maryland. Thousands of jobs.
You won't lose one plant. I promise you that. I promise you.
Plant closures like at this GM plant right here in Warren.
Should be noted as well, and Fox was forced to cover it, that once again on Friday, the stock market, the Dow Jones, hit another record high. There's been 32 record-setting days this year because, look, there's issues with I know that our economy isn't perfect, but the stock market right now is up 50 to 55% now. than when Donald Trump was in office. Our GDP far exceeds when Donald Trump was in office. America's leading all G7 nations, one of the fastest growing GDPs, the strongest GDP growth, lowest unemployment, energy independent. America's the biggest energy producer, oil producer, and distributor in the world. America's leading on all of these things. Here, watch what Fox had to say. Here, play this clip.
Periods like this where we have a high component of treasuries, and we're also looking at other asset classes as well.
Tim, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And there it goes. The fireworks are cued. It is the 32nd record close for the Dow this year. That's going to do it for us. Have a wonderful weekend. Cutlass next.
Yep, even Fox had to admit it right there. But at the end of the day, as Vice President Kamala Harris is, again, surging in the polls, as I think rational Americans are recognizing what's taking place, let me just show you the anatomy of a Trump supporter, if you will. So here are the types of people, if you're wondering, Ben, who's listening to Donald Trump say ridiculous things like that in Warren, Michigan, and saying, that's what I'm looking for, Ben. That's what we want. Here's a Trump fan in Michigan telling Newsmax that she doesn't believe the polls. We play this clip.
Tight here in Michigan. Do you believe the polls? Is Trump down by 3 points?
I don't believe so. I've been all over Michigan on family vacations, and there are Trump signs everywhere. I've hardly seen any Harris signs. So if you go by the signs, we are up. Trump is up.
Yeah, it's quite a sign behind you.
Here's another Trump fan as well saying that he trusts his Facebook message boards over the polls. Play the clip.
Brent from Trenton, Michigan. I do not think Kamala Harris is above in any way.
You don't believe these polls?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Just the anecdotal yard signs, the enthusiasm gap between everything. I just don't see it. There's even on the Facebook, local news sites, and the comments, you just read them. It's not in favor.
You got a son? Is this his birthday today?
And where would he get this idea from, huh? Well, Donald Trump was out there in Warren, Michigan, and he was there giving speeches across the state. He was in Warren. He was in Walker. Here he is in Walker, actually. And here he's saying that, look, Democrats, they just cheated everything. It's the only way we'll lose is if they cheat. Again, he's setting this up for like another January 6th again. Here, play this clip.
If I lose, I'll tell you what's possible, because they cheat. That's the only way we're going to lose, because they cheat. They cheat like hell.
So while he's doing that, he's out there selling the $1,000 watches. By the way, seems $100,000. I said $100,000 watches, which appears they're made in China and they're like kind of knockoffs anyway. And he's selling $100,000 like watches. Like what? I'll do a whole nother video on that, because I think if you dig deeper, there could be some more serious red flags and implications there. So I suggest you dig deeper. But just take a look too at like the people Donald Trump and these MAGAs look up to, like Argentina's president. Look at Argentina's stats today. Argentina's poverty rate soars above 50% under their beloved MAGA president of Argentina. That's what they want for America. I could just go into more raw data and more stats. How about this? GDP growth was stronger than thought in recent years, Commerce says. So our GDP growth was adjusted upwards. Remember, MAGA's like, oh, the stats aren't accurate. No, adjusted upwards. The S&P 500 logs another record close as well. U.S. consumer sentiment rises to 5-month high on economic news. This is just the raw data, folks, and it's just an honor to present you the facts, and you can judge for yourself. I got my I Love Jimena shirt. I'm back from the hospital with my baby girl, doing some videos. The MeidasTouch Network. My brother Brett did a great job, didn't he? And everyone held down the fort while I was gone. They'll keep doing it. They did such a good job. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million together. Thanks for watching.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.